Typically, we go to therapy when things are already falling apart, or we read the parenting books when the toddler has a meltdown, or maybe even we reach out for help in our marriages when things are already past the point of trying to package it up together, when the cracks are already showing. And this is kind of human nature. We wait until there's a problem to then fix it. But what if we took a different approach? What if we took a little bit of time out of something before we enter into it and really prepare for the season ahead so as to maybe avoid some of these big pitfalls that will lead us down the road to destruction, or even to help us build up our tool belt with tools that can come in really handy when cracks start to show versus when there's a splinter in the entire thing. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today in this video. And we're also going to talk about 7 things that I wish every Catholic engaged couple could hear in this season of engagement, because this season of engagement is way more important than people give it credit for. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Laura Jean. I'm the founder of Let's Be Saints Co., where I have developed Dearly Beloved, which is a marriage preparation program. And it really gives couples the fighting chance that they need before their marriage even takes place, before they even say I do. And let's be clear, it's not just about like more communication skills or checking off the pre-Cana box, although it does fulfill that requirement if you are in need of that. But it's more about really preparing you for the commitment ahead. The commitment of marriage is not some small thing. And when we commit to something that big, we not only need to know what all goes into that commitment, but also how to live it out in order to thrive and not just survive in it. And that's what this program is really all about, because at the end of the day, it's you and your spouse and your commitment to each other, your relationship that matters. It is that relationship that will either thrive or shrivel up and die within the confines of marriage. And only you have the power to choose which way it goes. And so I give you the tools that you need to be able to make that decision with the best of clarity of mind that you possibly can. Now, I've walked with dozens of couples and individuals over the years, and I've seen like kind of a pattern, and maybe you've seen it too, but couples who get engaged, right? They're really excited. They're really excited about their lives together. And so then they get married, and it's really great. And they dream about their wedding ahead of time and their honeymoon and their future. But underneath all of that excitement is a little bit of stress. There's a lot of tension and there's a lot of miscommunication. And we slap a label on it and call it wedding stress, because everyone gets stressed around this massive, big, humongously expensive party that people throw. And yes, stress does come with weddings, sure. But for a lot of couples, it's not just wedding stress. For a lot of couples, it intensifies what's already there. The little miscommunications, the little rifts in their relationship become magnified because all of their time is now spent on planning the wedding, planning their future, rather than pouring into their relationship now and really developing that relationship so that they can withstand anything that the marriage does throw their way. And here's the thing. Your marriage deserves so much more than just, we'll figure it out as we go. Truly, it deserves more. And that's what we're all about here. And unfortunately, we hear a lot of stories about couples who are really excited about getting married, right? They're best friends and they just can't wait to start their lives together. They're on the same page with life and all of these things, but they never really talk about how to handle conflict, for example. Like, they might be so on the same page that you never really see them arguing, or they never seem to argue, and you're like, that's cool for them, I guess. Maybe that's the ideal. Well, in reality, they're avoiding conflict because they don't know how to handle it, right? So what happens is that one of them will feel stuck, or both of them will feel stuck whenever something does come up that needs to be handled. And they feel like they can't really, they don't know what to do. And so they kind of feel like duped. They feel like they thought, well, love can carry us through anything. And so when things are hard and when there is conflict that they need to resolve and they don't know how, it's like, oh my gosh, like what have we done? Everything that I've ever thought is totally wrong, which is not always the case, but there's always things that we're learning, right? And so you fast forward a couple years into their marriage, and all of a sudden they're like sleeping in separate bedrooms. They are both wondering how they got here. And the fact of the matter is that neither one of them really did anything terrible, right? There wasn't something huge in their relationship that caused a rift. It was more so that they just assumed that the foundation that they had built on their really common interests and things like that was the foundation that would carry them through the storm, when in reality, they never spent the time to really build the foundation so that it was strong enough. You know, in the Bible, there is in Matthew chapter 7, I believe, there is the wise man who built his house on rock and the foolish man who built his house on sand. Well, having a relationship where you're just feeling out the vibes and you're just going with your common interests and you're just seeing what happens is like building your house on sand. There's really no foundation there. Whereas a relationship where you spend the time and you learn more about each other and you learn more about this commitment that you're entering into, and you really pour your energy into that, you're building a foundation like the rock that the house was built on in the wise man, right? That's the difference here. One will get washed away when the storms come, and the other will stand strong when the storms come. Because here's the thing, the storms will always come. Disruption always follows intention. And what we hear about in Matthew in that section is that the wind and the rain, they will always come. But by the time that it comes, and the couple who have built their foundation and their home on sand, they get pummeled by the waves, and then they say, oh, maybe we need help. And now it's disaster relief instead of prevention, right? Like you go to the doctor every year for a wellness visit so that you can potentially spot anything that might become a problem down the road. That is prevention. And rather than going to the emergency room when something is really, really bad because you didn't spend that time in those little increments ahead of time in that prevention, right? And I want to talk about something that might seem a little bit basic, okay? But it's actually one of the most critical things that shapes a couple's long-term success in their marriage, right? It's called growth mindset. Now, before you roll your eyes at me, hear me out. And potentially you've heard this phrase before. Growth mindset's everywhere, but we're not talking about the motivational quotes that you'll see on Instagram here. What I'm really talking about is what researchers have actually found in the science of relationships, okay? So there was actually a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology that found that a couple who believed that relationships can grow. For example, like both of them have the mentality that they're not stuck who they are the day that they got married or the day that they met each other, but their relationships can actually grow. Who both approach challenges with that mindset, they're significantly more likely to resolve conflict, improve communication, and feel satisfied in their relationship over time. But here's the kicker. Both parties in the relationship need to be on board. And I see this all the time, and it breaks my heart. Individuals in a couple will come to me, or I hear stories of where one person really wants to grow and they're willing to do anything that it takes, and the other shuts down, deflects, or refuses to change altogether and has more of an air of, like, this is just who I am. Take it or leave it. You just hit a wall, right? You hit a ceiling and you hit it fast. I've seen it time and time again, not just in couples that I've worked with, but in people that I love, and then in so many countless other stories, that a couple will hit a rough patch, right? Maybe it's finances, maybe it's in-laws, maybe it's intimacy, or unmet expectations that we place on our spouses, where one person says, let's get help, let's learn, let's figure this out. And the other person says, this is just who I am, with no intention of growing or learning how to be better. And this mindset, that right there, can quietly erode a relationship over time. And the thing is that we don't just magically develop this growth mindset once we're married, which is why it's so important that we cultivate it now. We cultivate it now, and that is what formation is for. This is why this season of engagement is so important. Yes, you could look for this characteristic in someone who you are meeting if you're single and looking for a potential spouse. You can look for someone who already has this. But the thing is that as human beings, our brains there's something called neuroplasticity, which essentially means that our brains, it's really cool. As human beings, our brains always have the capacity to change and grow. There's never a time in a human's life, like they don't reach an age and our brains stop learning and making new connections. It's neuroplasticity allows us to continually grow and form new neural pathways for our thinking to change, which means that even if you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't have these characteristics right now, who doesn't have a growth mindset right now, they can build this. This is something that can be cultivated. And it takes work, it takes consistency, and it takes time, but it certainly can happen. And even with yourself, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, I have a growth mindset, I promise you there's room for improvement. I'm in that boat. I had a wake up call recently where I thought I had a great growth mindset, and I think I do, but there are definitely ways that I can improve it. And so I'm starting this journey of improving my own growth mindset. So it's never something that we can just think about and be like, oh, got it, check that box off. It's always something that we can be working on, which leads me to the 7 things that I wish every engaged Catholic couple knew. Okay. Here is what I wish someone would tell every engaged Catholic couple. And so I'm going to tell you, if you're an engaged Catholic couple, I'm really excited that you're here and listening to this list of 7 things. Number 1, marriage is a vocation. It's not a reward. And it's not something everyone will enter into. It's not some prize at the end of a relationship or after a perfect dating life, right? It's a mission and it's a calling. It's a calling that you both are called to together. And it's one that requires really intentional preparation to be able to fulfill that calling. Number 2, conflict is not a red flag, but avoiding it is. This one is so important. What matters isn't whether you fight, right? Whether you are like always right or never have an argument, right? But it's how you fight. It is how you work through that conflict. Do you blame? Do you avoid? Do you shut down? Or do you work through it with humility and love? These things take practice. They take a lot of time and effort. And so if there's a conflict that doesn't go the way that you want and you're feeling guilty after or whatever, that's not the end of the rope. That's not a red flag. But avoiding conflict and avoiding growing in conflict is. So keep that in mind. Now, number 3 is that chemistry won't carry you through hard seasons, right? Attraction matters. It's really important in relationships. But what gets you through the late night arguments or job loss or babies or anything like that, it's not your attraction to the other person. It's your shared values, your commitment, your deep friendship that you've cultivated. It's sacrifice and unconditional love. These are the things that are going to get you through, not the physical attraction that you feel towards one another. Number 4 in this list of 7 things is the wedding is a day, but the marriage is the rest of your life. Now, when you're planning your wedding, you're often planning for the most expensive party you will ever throw, right? But are you preparing in the same intensity or even more for the years that follow? For the bond that you're forming that day to withstand past the 8 hours of your wedding day, right? How are you preparing for the rest of your life in that marriage? Number 5 is you need community. Okay, this is so important. It is proven that couples who walk alone struggle more. Period. You need mentors. You need friends who support your values. You need people who will call you higher and not just whisper in your ear, like, just leave them when things get hard. You need people who are on your side and ready to help you through the ups and downs of this huge commitment and this huge life change that you're about to walk through. Now, number 6, this one is really important. Boundaries don't get easier after engagement. For example, if you're struggling with being chased now, that is not a sign that you're weak. That's human nature, okay? We're designed to be attracted to one another. And if it's hard now, it's good that it's hard, but you have to be like it's good, but it also like you have to overcome it, right? But don't fool yourself into thinking that marriage will magically fix everything, that you won't feel those feelings anymore. So what's really important is that you learn discipline and you learn reverence now, as early as possible, okay? So important. And number 7, the last thing I will say in this video is that you need a guide, okay? Not just a generic checklist or not to be left to your own devices to figure it out. Remember the sand? Remember the couple who builds their house on sand? But you need a real guide who can challenge you and coach you and help you prepare for the covenant that you're about to enter into. It's really important that you have this. So you don't just want to walk into your marriage just hoping for the best, do you? Right? You can actually build the skills and the habits to create connection and trust and lasting love starting now. That's why I created Dearly Beloved, because many couples are doing this backwards, right? They're getting married and then they're realizing how hard it is and then they're reaching out for help. Sometimes they think their pride tells them they don't need to reach out for help and they just suffer in silence until one day they just finally give up. That unfortunately is the reality of so many couples, but that doesn't have to be your reality, right? Dearly Beloved is way more than just a pre-Cana program. It's a path forward. It's a way to build a strong foundation on rock. It is the way to build the foundation for your marriage that can sustain the beautiful home that your future can reside in. Okay? And if you want to have these conversations and you want to build these muscles of virtue and different things that you're going to need, the skills that you're going to need, the tools you're going to need in your tool belt before any problems pop up so that you know how to handle them when they do, this is your chance, right? You don't have to just be passed through a requirement for pre-Cana, but you can actually be transformed through it. And being really radically prepared for your marriage, by the time you say I do, I'm sure that it's sounding a little bit more necessary in your mind by now. So I just want to encourage you to book a call with me with the link below. We're going to talk about like what you need and to see if this is the right fit for you. Because truly, you get one shot at preparing for your marriage. This time is so precious. You're only engaged once. And so, well, not always, but when you marry the person that you're going to marry, that engagement only happens once. So let's make it count. Okay? I'm cheering for you. You've got this. And I can't wait to see how strong your marriage can be.